So let's say that you use AppSheet to manage your inventory. And in your AppSheet app, you've set up email notifications to let you know when your inventory on a particular item is getting low. But that's email, and we all know how email works. Half the time your messages end up in spam, and half the other time you just end up missing them altogether because there's so much other garbage in your inbox. I know, I've been there. So lots of businesses have this problem, and therefore lots of businesses have switched to Slack as their primary method of communication instead of email. And if you're one of those businesses, you also might want to send those inventory notifications to Slack instead of email. That way, not only you would have a better chance of seeing them, but everyone else in your company would be able to see them as well. And you'd be able to use the other built-in features of Slack, like threading that it has, to keep up to date on the status of a reorder for that particular item. The good news is that all of this is very possible with an AppSheet, and it's actually very easy to set up. That's what we're going to look at right now. AppSheet already has a great starting point for this inventory app, and that is under templates here and this simple inventory template. So if you want to follow along with exactly what I'm doing here, you can go to the same place. Again, just go to templates, select simple inventory, copy, and you can create the same app and follow the same exact steps that I'm doing here. So just quickly going through what this app does is we have a few inventory items in here: saw, hammer, T-square. We've got an inventory log, which is kind of additions and deletions from the inventory. So for example, if we purchase 20 more hammers, they'll show up in here as 20 additional hammers. And if somebody comes and purchases hammers, they get subtracted from the inventory. So that's how that works. And then there's also levels here that shows you the inventory available for each item. And also, if I look at the inventory for a particular item, like a saw, you see that it says total stock available is 31. And if I look at my data structure, I've got two different tables, items and inventory. And within items, that total stock available is a expression that's basically just getting the sum, the total of all those different additions and deletions, which equals, in the end, the total number of items that we have in stock right now. So we're actually going to use this total stock available as we get further along in this demo. So that's why I wanted to call that out here. All right, now let's take a look at the automation that got created along with this app. So that is right here. And what this does is sends an email when the stock is below 25. So very similar to what we want to do with Slack, but it's just doing it with email. So we could reuse that by just changing the action here to send a Slack message instead of an email. But we're just going to delete this so we can start from scratch and look at the entire process for creating a new automation. So let's delete that. I'm going to save, and I'm going to create a new automation. And we need a trigger for that. That's this configure event up at the top. I want to say create new event. And what I want to trigger on is a change to the inventory. So the inventory is, again, where we're keeping track of all those additions and subtractions. And whenever something changes with that, I want this to trigger to run in order to send my Slack notification if there are less than a number of items, whatever we configure that number to be. All right, so I'm going to call this inventory changed. I'm going to select, or I'm going to keep the table that we're interested in, the table that we're monitoring, to inventory. And the condition, I'm going to click in order to create an expression. And what I want this condition to be is the number of items that are currently in stock for the item that changed to be less than 5. So they had it as 25 for that previous one for the email, but what I'm interested in is 5. So in order to do that, I'm going to select the total items available here down in the list of tables that we have available. I'm going to hit insert to insert that into my expression. And what I want to know is if that number is less than 5. So for less than, you use this less than symbol. And little backstory here. When I was in elementary school, or it was probably middle school even, my math teacher taught me that you can remember less than and greater than by less than looking like an L. So this kind of looks like a weird sideways L. And then greater than is that it kind of looks like Pac-Man. if Pac-Man is trying to eat the bigger side of things. So again, if you just remember L as or less than as the L, you can remember greater than being the opposite one of that. So anyway, maybe your math teacher gave you some other way to remember it. That's what my math teacher gave me. I've been programming all my life and think about this pretty much every time I use less than or greater than. So anyway, little tip there. But we went less than 5 here, so I got less than, and I'm going to say 5. The expression that we're building here is pretty simple, but if you're trying to do something that's a little bit more complex, or if you just don't want to have to deal with this coding stuff at all, then check out my AppSheet Advisor Chrome extension. You can just tell it what you're trying to do as far as the actual expression that you're trying to create, and it will create that expression for you automatically within seconds. You can download the extension at appsheetadvisor.com, and I'll also include a link to that down in the description. All right, back to our app. All right, the next thing that we want to do is actually add the step and actually add what happens when all of this is true. And you can do that by clicking Add Step, Create New Step. I'm going to name this one Send Slack Message. And what we want to select up here as far as the task that we're going to run is call a webhook. So I'm going to select that. And then there's a little kind of hidden preset actually in here for sending Slack notifications. And you can get to that by clicking this preset menu, and there's something in here called Slack Hook that you can select. So select that. It's going to pre-populate a few things here, including the URL and the actual message template. And what we need next is the actual Slack webhook URL that we want to call in order to be able to post to our own Slack account and a specific channel within that Slack account. So let's jump over to Slack to set that up. All right, this is where you can start that setup. You are going to need to already have a Slack account set up for your organization. You're going to need to also have administrative privileges if you don't already. If you don't have administrative privileges, you're going to have the administrator for your Slack account go through these same exact steps and get the hook URL that I'm going to show here at the end of this setup process and give that to you so that you can set that up on the AppSheet side. But I'll include the link to this page down in the description so that you can follow the same exact process. So what we want to do to start here is just click Create App. It's going to go to this page, and you want to create an app from scratch. And I'm going to call this app Inventory Notifications. And it's asking me to select the workspace. So this is basically just your Slack account. So if you have a Slack account for your entire business, that would be what this is. So mine is Pliable Matter. So I'm going to select that. And I'm going to say Create App. All right, everything that's showing up here is the details, the actual credentials for being able to use this app. These credentials are connected to your Slack account, so this is stuff that you do not want to share out publicly or with anyone else really, because you can use this information to actually create messages and do other things within your Slack account. So I'm going to delete this app and all of this as soon as this video is done. So that's why I have everything showing here. But you want to, again, keep this information secure for your own app that you create. From here, what we want to do is go to incoming webhooks in the left-hand column here. And I want to turn on this little checkbox for webhooks. And then scroll down to the bottom of that page, and it's got a button down here, Add New Webhook. So I'm going to click that. And the next thing I need to do is select the channel that I want to post messages to. So in my Slack account, I've got a channel that I created here called Inventory Alerts. So that's the channel I want to post to. So back within the setup here, I want to select that channel, Inventory Alerts. And I want to say Install Inventory Notification. All right, that is done. And you see that created a new webhook down here. And basically what I want to do is just copy the URL of that webhook. So you can do that by clicking this copy button. And now we're ready to go back to the AppSheet side to set everything up. Again, if your admin had done this for you, had done this setup for you, your Slack admin, you just need to get them to give you this URL or just copy and paste to you this URL that you're getting right here, because that's what you need to complete the setup in AppSheet. All right, so now back in AppSheet, we want to click where it says URL here, and I want to overwrite this kind of stock template URL that they included with that preset with what we just copied out of Slack. So I'm going to paste that here, and I'm going to click Save. And then the final piece of setup for this Slack notification is that we want to update the template, which is the message that we're actually sending to that channel when something happens. So it's probably easiest to just start by typing what exactly you want to send. So I'm going to say the inventory for item is low, and there are currently count in stock. Okay, and now what I want to do is replace item and count with the actual details of the particular item that triggered this automation to run. So in order to do that, I'm just going to delete where it says item, and AppSheet gives you this nice little view down here that shows you your tables and all the columns that are in them, and lets you use the insert option in order to be able to write those values or placeholders for those values into your expression up here. So I want to say the inventory is low for item, the item name. So it's putting that in there, and I can just leave that exactly as is. And then count, I want to delete that as well. And what I'm interested in there is the total stock available. So I can just click insert, and it will insert that as well. All right, from here, we can just click save. We can save our entire app. I'm going to, before I saved, I should have renamed this bot. So I'm going to rename this to send inventory low notification, and save one more time. All right, now let's jump over and look at our app. So we've currently got 31 saws in stock, and let's first just test this by removing one of them, in which case we should see the inventory decrease, but we shouldn't see a Slack notification sent because we're not below 5. So to do that, I'm just going to go over to inventory log. I'm going to select saw, and I want to just remove one. So that is -1, which will remove one from my inventory. So I'm going to save there. That is done. Now, if I look at my saws, I am at 30 here. So again, 1 subtracted. If I go look at my Slack, you see nothing happened here. Nothing got posted because we're still not below 5. So all good there. All right, let's do that again. But this time we want to actually remove enough inventory items in order to be able to trigger that notification. So we're currently at 30 here. If we remove 26, it's going to put us at 4 and should trigger the notification. So let's go back to inventory log again, add a new item in. I'm going to say saw is what I want to remove from. And this time I want to remove 26 of them. So right there, save. All right, now if I go back and look at my saw, you see that I've got 4 in stock, which again is below 5, so should have triggered the notification. If I switch over to Slack here, you see that it did trigger the notification, did fill in all the blanks from those template variables that we inserted in. So it says now the inventory for saw is low. There are currently 4 in stock. So that's how you can create basic automations, including Slack notifications in AppSheet. Seems pretty straightforward, right? If you do have any questions about it, drop them down in the comments and I'll do my best to answer those for you. And if you want to learn more about AppSheet and everything that you can do with it, be sure to subscribe to this channel. That's all I've got for today. And as always, thanks for watching and happy building.